Well, here we are at the start of a new year. So, are you feeling motivated, hopeful, and I don't know, still like something's bugging you, right? I think I've been in that spot. Get very motivated, but I'm just not sure, right? Your list of goals is already starting to feel a little bit overwhelming, and maybe even a little scattered, right? You've got a lot of different areas of your life that you got to take care of, and you want to improve on, and health, fitness, business, personal, community, spiritual, all that stuff. And you've got some ideas, but something still feels a little unclear about where to start or what actually matters. I know that was me for years. The calendar rolled to January 1st, and I was ready to take off running. I was very motivated, but I wasn't sure where I was actually going. And so today I want to talk to you guys not about setting more goals or building longer lists. We're going to talk about how to determine what your priorities are so your goals actually work for you, right? Because when our priorities are clear, decisions get easier, time gets protected. Ooh, wow, that would be fun, right? And action doesn't feel like work, to be honest with you. If you want some of that, right? If that's where you'd like to head, stay tuned here. Let's do this. Let's dive in. And good to see you guys already tuning in and chipping in there. So let's do this, as my wife would say.
Dark gaze, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling set, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights. With the support of our success group, we're taking flight. Our word is strong, the vision so clear. Building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force. With our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right. Well, welcome into Small Business Saturdays, everybody. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and each week I talk about the mindset, the strategies, and the actions that actually helped me fall deeper in love with what I get to do each day. And I'm grateful to be able to share those kind of ideas with you. It's time that every small business owner out there stops allowing their business to steal all of their time and joy. That's my mission. And each week we want to explore ways to regain our control and also our clarity. So really, right? Bye-bye chaos. That's the goal. And as we kick off 2026 here, I want to help you avoid one of the most common traps I see business owners fall into every January. I did it for a long time. And I was stuck here for many years, having lists of goals that I wanted to accomplish, all of this excitement, but none of the clarity. And so setting goals without first setting up and understanding what our priorities are, that's not what we want to do. So when that happens, even good goals can lead to burnout, distraction, and frustration. So appreciate everybody tuning in here. I want to say hello this morning. Thank you for all of our live listeners here. We've got Barb checking in from North Central Minnesota. Also, I do want to, just before I am live today, and as you might be able to hear, I don't know if you can hear it in me or not, I've been fighting off a bit of a cold here since probably the 30th. I have good days and bad days, and last night was a tough night of sleep, and so it's all kind of stuck in here. So if I pause for a second, I'm going to try not to cough right in your ear, but I will turn off the mic if I can quickly and hit any coughs, and I might have to grab my water here and there. So I want to put that out there first, but hello, Barb. Yep, Craig, starting a great year ahead. I love it, Craig. High five to that. Boom. And this year I was gifted with the one thing. Have to tell me about that. I probably am familiar, but I'm just probably overthinking it. But tell me what that is, Craig. Love it. And a happy Saturday, everyone, Chandler says. And she's using today to catch up on all emails and getting ready for this next program with our success group. And that's the accelerator. Happy to have Chandler along. And speaking of people I'm happy to have along, we've got Angie checking in today. Hello, Angie. Not only Is Angie an amazing decorator? But she's been a guest on my podcast, The Two Regular Guys, a couple times. In fact, in 2 weeks from now, I think it is, Angie will be joining us. And she is also joining us in the Accelerator program that gets started next week. And so we also have Kylene checking in. She was actually running out to grab us some sandwiches, so appreciate that. After we get done here, we're heading to a volleyball tournament. That's why I'm wearing my High Performance. That's the club my son plays for. Oh, man, I love it. Look at all these people in here. Chuck, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Don't distract him today, Chandler. It's live. Yeah, exactly. Distracting. That's all good. And Marina, thank you so much. I feel a little bit crummy, but I know a lot of people are dealing with this. So yeah, you're fighting a pesky cold there. I was talking to my friend Christy, who's fighting it. I think it's kind of run across the country as far as I can tell. So yeah, just what's been working for me, lots of vitamin C, and then just trying to get, I put some Vicks vapor rub on, that helped a little bit. I was recommended some vitamin D and zinc as well, and I haven't done that yet. So after we get done here, I'm going to try that. And yes, I hope I feel better too, Angie. Thank you. All right, you guys. So today's conversation really, though, is about getting clear on what actually matters the most, so everything else can fall into place. And as we always do, for anybody that's new here, we always kind of follow the format of the fundamentals of business success here. We got plant, which is mindset. We got prepare, which is kind of strategy, plan. And then we got pollinate, which is action. Let's do something. Let's actually move forward. And so we're going to start with plant. And a lot of mindset stuff that we discuss here is all about, a lot of times, just awareness of it, right? Sometimes we're just not even aware that this is how we operate, or this is how we might be looking at things. And so that awareness actually fixes things without us even having to do anything. And it creates this change of perspective. And that's where our adjustments can come from. And the real issue that we're facing as business owners is not failure. It's not that we're not reaching our goals. And here's the hard thing to hear. And it was hard for me to hear, so I imagine it might be hard for you to hear. The real issue is a lack of action, right? Action that's building momentum, and really the way we look at action, right? Like we have this thing where we can't move. It's got to be perfect. I don't know it, right? But the reality is that lack of action, it is really crucial, because when we feel stuck, the first thing we need to do is actually take action. And I think when we don't take action, then it gets even worse. We start beating ourselves up and going, oh man, I failed again, right? But that's not true. It just, the reality is the lack of action doesn't come from laziness or not caring. I know you guys, there's not a lazy person in here. There's not somebody who doesn't care. You guys all care deeply. And the fact of the matter is, it comes from years and years and years of these internal stories and challenges that we've had to face and overcome, that build up in the form of fear, shame, and regret. And I know you guys have heard me talk about fear, shame, and regret ad nauseum, but I will continue to do that, because that is what the true enemy is, right? Fear of messing up again. I even talked to somebody the other day, and I've experienced this, so it wasn't like this was an aha moment when they said it, but they were really challenged with the fear of success. Well, what happens if I do actually reach that goal, right? I don't know what I'm going to do at that point, right? The next level is going to be too hard, or I won't be able to handle the success, right? And so fear is a powerful enemy that stands in our way, right? Shame about all of the shoulds. I should have done this. I should have done this. We're constantly shoulding on ourselves. But the truth is, you did the very best in that moment with your current level of skills, knowledge, and ability in that moment, right? Yes, maybe 30 seconds later, you go, oh, I should have known better. Well, but you didn't. And so you can't change that now. So how do we use that as an opportunity? I could have, right? So just that one letter change right there will get rid of shame. And not like instantly, but once you're consistent with that and you start using that type of language, oh, I could, right? And then we have regret about the choices that we did make, right? Or the choices that we didn't make earlier, right? I knew I should have done that, and now I regret that I am quote unquote behind. Or the times you let yourself or someone else down in the past, right? Like, we spend a lot of time letting ourselves down. It's just human nature, right? We're constantly fighting this battle that we want to move forward. We want to grow. We want to get to a higher level. But our subconscious has one job, one overarching job, and it is the 800-pound gorilla. And you're not going to make it do something for very long that it doesn't want to do. And that 800-pound gorilla wants to keep you safe and wants to conserve your energy, right? It sees that conserving energy as the way to keep you safe, because it's thinking that there's a threat coming around the corner at any time. And if I give you some energy to go follow this dream, then we're going to use up that energy store that we're going to need to run away from the saber-toothed tiger, right? And so we're constantly fighting that battle. But when those emotions sit under the surface, right, and they kind of run, they're the ones that are making decisions for you, that fear, shame, and regret, then your goals start feeling even more unreachable. And now the subconscious has even more reason to keep you in that comfort zone, right? And in fact, you might even stay busy, but you don't feel focused, right? You might be a little bit motivated because you're going, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get to that goal. I'm going to reach that thing. I'm going to hit that milestone. But you don't know how, and you can't even imagine what the first step might be, right? And I think this is why priorities matter so much before goals, right? And in the past, I already said this, but I want to be very clear on this. You did the very best that you could with the knowledge, skills, perspective, and abilities you had in the moment. I 100% believe that. Everything that happened, whether it was your quote unquote fault or not, you did the very best in that moment. And here's the other part that you got to realize, right? If you're going to say that, which we are, right? I am, and therefore I'm giving you permission to say that for yourself. The person on the other side that hurt you was in the same boat. They were doing the very best, and they made that choice, right? And so our priorities, not our goals, but our priorities are actually connected to our reason, right? We call it the reason here at our success group. Some people call it a why. Maybe in a more corporate environment, it's a mission statement. But it's what you were put on this earth to do. It's what your business is meant to do, why it's here, right? And the thing that quietly keeps showing up, even when you try to ignore it, right? Like, I started this business and I'm not sure, but I keep showing up. Well, why do you keep showing up, right? Oftentimes that is the clue to your priority, and they're hiding in questions that we don't like to ask ourselves. And so I would write these down if I were you, and then just be willing to play full out with them, right? And when I say play full out, that just means, let's assume that by being honest and answering these questions, that it might change our future. Let's give ourselves the best opportunity to be honest from a place of love and grace, right? And so think about this question first. What in my life or business embarrasses me right now, right? Maybe where you haven't shown up, maybe you're pricing your support, whatever it is, right? And I'm not, okay, let me be real clear on these questions. Please, unless you really, really, really want to, I'm not asking you to put these things in the comments, right? I want you to keep them for yourselves. I don't want them to become any more dangerous feeling than they might already for you, right? And if you ever want to talk about it with somebody that you know you can trust, please reach out to me. I'm happy to have that conversation, and we'll just keep that between you and I can give you perspective, and I'm going to come from a place of love and care, no matter how embarrassing it might be. All right. So that's question number one. What is embarrassing you right now? Second question is, what are you truly tired of dealing with? And let's go back to that point that I made earlier where, yes, we were doing the very best that we could in that moment, but the other side is also doing the very best that they could in that moment. So what are you tired of dealing with right? That you can fix. Right? What do you have control over? Right? We actually talked to my son about this in volleyball and in life a lot. And it's to talk to him, but it's also a great reminder for us. I have to remind myself of this all the time. But there's really only a couple things that we have full control over, and that's our effort and our attitude. Right. And so what are you truly tired of dealing with? How did you create, promote, or allow that to happen in your life? And what can we do to change it? Right. That's where we're heading with the whole thing. And then the third thing is, where have I settled instead of choosing growth, right? Where have I decided I'm going to stay in this comfort zone? I'm going to make it a campground. I'm not going anywhere, even though I know growth is right there, just slightly up against my comfort zone, right? So where have you settled instead of choosing growth? So those three questions, I'll give them to you one more time in case you want to write them down. What in my life or business embarrasses me right now? Excuse me. What am I truly tired of dealing with? And where have I settled instead of choosing growth? Now, again, full transparency, full clarity, because it's important that we understand this. And I want to make sure that I didn't come across in any way, shape, or form in a sense of these aren't to shame you, right? The fact of the matter is these answers are pointing you towards what matters most. They are revealing where action has been missing. And that's really good news, right? It's not shame. It's not regret. This is good news, right? Because now you can see where the action is. And the great part about action, that's one of the things we have control over. We can take an action and we get to choose a different action the next time if we want to, or we can choose the same action. That's totally fine. That is our choice, right? So those three questions, that's the mindset I want us to come from, is just that deep self-honesty, and then understanding that now we can start identifying what our actual priorities are. And so from that place, right, we can start taking that awareness and allow it to lead us to turn these insights into priorities. And let me give you a key idea before I get into this part. So we're sliding into the prepare phase here. Priorities are not tasks, right? We sometimes even goals can be tasks. I'm going to accomplish this. I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to mark this box. Priorities are just things that are important to you, right? Like you could almost look at them as values, the things that are your internal core values. They're focus areas that guide your decisions, that guide your time and your energy, right? When we're working inside of our priorities, it doesn't matter how sick I am, right? Like as soon as I started doing this is a priority for me, being able to share what I get to do here, what I've learned. And even though I was feeling a little crummy before it started, I feel actually really good right now, right? I got that energy back. And when we're focused, I know we can accomplish anything that we want, but not everything. All right. So let me show you this graphic. This is kind of an idea that I borrowed, and then I had our good friends over there at AI, the chat, GPT AI actually made this for me, and then I added a few things. But here, we'll put that over here. And there you go. You can do anything, right? Look, we can fill that jug all the way up. But if we try to fill up all the jugs all at once, not everything, right? Welcome, Sandy. Thanks for being here. All right. So to find these priorities, we don't start with what you want to accomplish. We need to start with what needs attention, right? So back to those questions that we talked about in the awareness there, the embarrassing, what you're tired of, what you're settling on. Think about it, right? What are you tired of? Where have you settled? What feels out of alignment, right? And the answers to those questions is a point of priority. If you're tired of it, you're tired of not feeling supported, you're tired of not getting paid what you're worth, okay? Well, then you want to be paid what you're worth. That's a priority. And that might be worth focusing on this year and making that a goal, right? Where have you settled, right? You're just getting by. Okay. Well, that could be a priority. See, and so when you start thinking about these, you start looking at these things, now when it's time to actually say, okay, what's my number one goal for 2026 or whatever beyond? Now I can point to these priorities and say, oh, well, I don't need more sales. I need more profit. Or I don't need more customers. I need better relationships, right? Those are just a couple of quick ones off the top of my head. But let me give you a couple of other examples, right? Maybe you're tired of constant stress. Well, then maybe a priority might be rebuilding your mindset and finding where your energy is leaking, right? Find a way to bring balance, right? For some people, that might be, scheduling more breaks or meditations. And, if you're my wife, making sure that she's a yoga instructor, right? And so that brings her a lot of energy. Both my wife and I like to spend some time in the morning in prayer. And when I'm feeling low, we get into that. And I just want to have that conversation, maybe go to some scripture, right? If that's who you are. But when you're gaining that perspective on what is truly important and you're focusing on rebuilding your mindset and your energy because you were tired of the constant stress, then that stress melts away. You don't have to do anything specific to get rid of stress, right? Yes, maybe some deep breaths. And yes, we're going to bring some intentional practices into that. But it's not, I'm just doing this to get rid of stress. You're actually doing it to get into alignment. And then the stress starts melting away, right? Thank you, Chandler, for the joke. Love it. I'm tired of myself. There you go. And now I have to take a sip of water, but that was funny. That version of yourself, maybe, Chandler, right? And I know you're joking, but all right. So that's one example, right? Maybe you're tired of the constant stress. Maybe you've settled into just being reactive in your business all the time, and just whatever fire's thrown your way, you're going to deal with it that day, work as hard as you can, and then, I know I've worked a lot on these, and I've spent a lot of time getting to this point. But the reality is this is still a daily thing, right? I have plenty of moments where I'm reactive and then I sit down in front of the TV and boom, I'm done, right? And so a priority might be for you, if that's the case, working on your structure and your planning. Take your calendar back, take ownership of your calendar back by blocking out what I like to call big rocks, right? What are the important things? Right? Like I have an appointment every day with myself for 30 minutes for this, right? For me in the morning, it's prayer and then some moments to get up and things like that. And those are like set on there. Yes, I can move them around a little bit if I've got a meeting or something like that, but they don't come off of there. And honestly, some of us even need to make sure we're using our calendars and keeping control over them, right? Like if you don't know what you've got coming up, we talk about having a time management issue a lot. And we know the reality is we have a priority management issue. But if you don't have control over your time first, and the only tool that I'm aware of that you can control your time with is a calendar. And so if you're not, and I got to come up with a better term for this, but I like to consider myself a little bit of a calendar Nazi, right? You got the soup Nazi from Friends, or no, Seinfeld, excuse me. I wasn't actually a Seinfeld watcher, but the soup Nazi was a big thing. I'm a calendar Nazi, right? And at first my wife couldn't understand why. And then I finally took the time to explain it to her, right? Like I want to keep control of my time. I need to know what's going on so I can adjust accordingly. I don't want to have too much and I want to keep control over it, right? And so we're very good about making sure, okay, let's get that on the calendar. Let's make sure it's shared with each other and we go from there. So we start being proactive. And then at that point, then we will stop. It's not that, again, we've settled into the reactive work and you can't just go, okay, I'm not going to react to anything anymore. It's just not feasible, right? You've got customers, you've got other people that need things. You are going to have to react. But the more proactive you get, it means there will be fewer things to be reactive to, and you're going to get back into a nice balance of proactive versus reactive, right? All right, maybe I'm going to give you one more example. And if you guys want to share any examples of anything that where maybe you're tired of it, right, other than yourself, Chandler, I thought that was funny. Where have you settled and what feels out of alignment? So the third example here I want to share with you guys is if regret is keeping you from showing up, right? Like, you know you need to get out and share what you do with more people. Maybe it's on social media, maybe it's in-person events, whatever it is. A priority might be taking more aligned actions, right? Even in small ways, right? So if you need to get out there, but you don't have the personality that, is going to feel really comfortable walking into a large BNI or Chamber of Commerce event and just, basically passing business cards around and trying to schmooze people, right? Then don't go to those, right? That's not the action. That's not an aligned action. That'll actually put you further into regret and you'll show up less. But start small, start somewhere, right? Like, okay, let me just post on a Facebook group that serves me as opposed to the ones that are just a bunch of crud, right? Maybe you just need to reach out to a supportive friend and start there and ask, if they have any ideas that might help you get out there a little bit more. And, maybe you do need to go to a local event, but not one that's the BNI or the chamber, right? Like I run a local event here with Chandler actually, and it's a small group and it's great people and it's super easy and nobody feels stressed and there's not a big pitch session, right? But yet everybody sits there at the end of the session and it's like, how can I help them? I want to get their business card. Oh, I thought of this person. And not once did we go into okay, well, tell us what you do and who's your ideal client so we can all, pass out business cards and you got to bring referrals back. But yet we do more referrals because it's a safe space, right? And so what's a small step that you can take that will start lessening the hold regret has on you? Because none of these things are going to be magic bullets. None of these things are going to be you make one choice and all of a sudden your world completely changes and it's all rainbows and ponies. But those little choices each day will pile up and you'll get down the road a little bit of a distance and look back and go, wow, I was consistent. I showed up and now things are rainbows and ponies. But what happened, right? So, anyhow, sorry, I gotta get rid of one there. Okay. So there's a couple examples, right? Let's see here. Craig says, tired of the current day job, right? And here's the deal, Craig. I know that you are taking steps to resolve that, right? And so it's just going to be continuous, right? Like, and I'm not speaking to Craig's specific situation here, but I've known other people that have been in situations where their day job wasn't fitting them and it wasn't serving them, even though it was giving them a paycheck. And so the priority needed to be, maybe the priority is I need to find a different day job that can help me get from point A to point B until I get my business going. Or I need to find ways to add a little bit of extra to my business so I can let go of this day job. I need to set a date, right? And I'm not speaking to Craig here. I'm saying in general, right? So what are the things that we can do? So a priority for Craig might be fixing the situation at the day job. Heck, it could even be having more conversations and saying, this is why the day job's not working for me, and seeing if somebody will make an adjustment or a change there. I don't know, right? And again, I'm not talking to Craig directly here. I'm just using this as an example that we can all take some parts and pieces from. And Chandler says, scary words here, BNI, chamber, networking. Right. Yep. Get it. Yes. The fourth Monday of the month in O'Fallon, Missouri, come up to 80/20. If you are anywhere near O'Fallon, Missouri, it starts at 9 a.m. at 80/20 Studios in O'Fallon, Missouri. You can go to osg.link/circle. We call it the Entrepreneur Success Circle. Kind of the Knights of the Round Table type idea where we're all just there to help and share and learn together. So, all right, love it. With this idea, right, now we're seeing how these priorities can come into play and really help us design our year in a better way. And this is where the fundamentals, right, these things right here that I wrote about, come in. Because before we're able to grow, we have to plant, right? We got that mindset, we got the awareness. Before we sprint, we start doing all these massive actions, we need to have a little bit of a strategy, right? You don't need 10 priorities. You need 1, 2, 3 at most that are very clear, that if you answer this question clearly, things will start to come into vision, right? If I focus on these priorities consistently, what would change everything else? Because, right? Okay, let's go back to the example about the constant stress, right? If I just consistently made it a point to start my day and end my day with prayer, let's say, and that's your focus, right? That's the thing you go back to when you do feel that stress. Maybe you pause, right? That becomes a sign now that you just pause, have a little prayer, have a little deep breath, maybe walk outside. I like to go put my bare feet in the ground, no matter what the temperature is. So that's how priorities turn into momentum. When we say, if I focus consistently here, what would change everything else? And that's the action, right? So, focusing on the prayer or the meditation, whatever that is for you, could be what changes everything else, because now you're working from a place of clarity, not stress. And I will guarantee you're going to get more done. You're going to feel more joy, and you're going to want to do more, but yet still somehow figure out how to find time for everything else. Right? It's amazing how that happens, but that's the truth of the matter. So let me share, I've been giving examples of other people, but I'm going to share mine just so you can kind of see this in full action, and maybe hold me accountable, whatever that might be. But for me, my number one priority in business is walking alongside the people who say yes to the OSG community, the ones that are engaging in the conversations in Facebook, the ones that are part of our mastermind program, the ones that are part of our accelerator program, the ones that reach out, right? Like, I'm looking for proactive people, not the ones that are waiting for me to come grab them, because it's just not who I am, right? I'm here. I'm open. I'm like, I got my arms wide open here, right? Let's go back to the other view here so I can make these big hand movements, right? But that's what I'm looking for, right? So they can get better perspectives. That's my number one priority, is that they fall in love with what they get to do. Now, my number one priority personally is exploring my faith a little bit more, and seeing how God is calling me to be the salt and light, right? I keep Matthew 5:13 through 16 really close to my heart. And if those of you that are open to that, go check it out, read Matthew 5:13 to 16. And so that's really important to me. I want to be the salt and light. And that's my number one priority personally. And then my number one priority in the new year is, sorry, not in the new year. My number one priority out in the world, right? And it kind of, okay, I got business, I got personally, my sphere of influence, we'll call it, right? My number one priority is my family. I want to be the best dad that I can for Lewis and Keegan. And I want to be the best support I can for Kylene. And these are the priorities, but they're not the only things that I do. But when fear, shame, and regret show up, I go back and I remind myself of these priorities, and it allows me to get back to action very quickly, right? And when I get back to action, right, and then all of those fears, shames, and regrets start to melt away. They don't just go away, but when I'm in action, I don't have time to think about the fear, shame, or regret, right? So what are your priorities? And these don't have to be set in stone, not going to hold you accountable, but I want to inspire each other, right? There were my 3 priorities. What are your priorities as you look ahead into 2026 here? Go ahead and post them in the comments. Feel free to start a conversation about them in our Facebook group, the Entrepreneur Success Hub. And while you guys are posting those, what your priorities are, let's move into the final phase here, right? And the final phase here is our pollinate phase. And these are small actions that are going to create momentum for us. We see the shift in perspective when you start to unpack those priorities, right? I hope you saw that. At least to me, it seemed very clear. But we need to test those priorities with some action, because clarity without action actually just keeps us stuck, and it might get us more stuck because fear really gets a grip on us. Right? When we see something clearly and we don't run for it, fear goes, see, I told you couldn't do it. Right. And so we need to, and I'm not saying go run through a wall or jump across a huge cavern. I'm saying take a step. Right. And I love it. Thank you for sharing, Vicky. Do you mind if I, well, you put them in the comments. So I'm going to go ahead and pop them up there and just talk about them really quick. My priorities are mornings with God, her husband, and her business. Right. And I know Vicky very well, and all of those fit together very nicely. And so when you're not feeling it, when you're feeling stressed, boom. Right. And I know you do that. So, you know what, we're going to boom, a little pom action. Love it. I need to pom up a little bit more because I'm still not feeling 100%, but actually talking to you guys is making me feel a ton better. All right. Chandler says my priority is going to be me. And that means if I want to be a TGP full time, then I need to get in the action to make that happen. Right. And so making her and her mission at the grace period a priority. Love it. Love it. So when in doubt, right, what do you need to do to make that a priority? I love that. Good stuff, Chandler. Some more pom action. All right. So we're going to test these priorities. And the good news is this, that we don't need massive actions and hours worth of grueling work to be able to really honor our priorities. You just need small, consistent actions that are going to reinforce them. And so I found that for me, there's a simple way that I do this. First, we'll get back to that in 1 second, Chandler. I love that. We have to choose a priority, right? Like, it's not like we're picking a favorite, but just in that moment, it doesn't have to be forever. But ask yourself this: if you were to let go of fear, shame, and regret, or at least not let them be the voice running the show, what would you intentionally do, right? Based on that priority, right? And so that's what we're kind of like picking. What's the priority that we need to look at right now? And when I actually walked through this a bit deeper inside of our MOS meetings this last week, a lot of people in the MOS actually ended up landing on a word of the year, right? And I know some people are for it and against it. I don't really care. If it works for you, I think this is a great strategy. So here are some words that came up, right? So Jerry says faith, family, and health. Love it. There you go. Great priorities. All right. Well, we tried kick, but I think it's time to get rid of it. Okay. Too much spam. And so those words of the year, right? Boldness, intentionality, simplicity, cleanse, grace, joy. Those are some of the ones that stood out to me, right? Those are the ones that we can like lean into. And Angie says, letting go of things and people that do not serve my goals and my mindset. So amazing. All right. And then Chandler did say, I'm going to introduce the grace period to at least 2 people today. Awesome. I love it. I can't wait to hear how that goes. So keep me posted if you don't mind. Awesome. All right. All right. Put that there. Okay. So, right. Thinking of those words, right. And so maybe the intentionality and the priority is honoring yourself first. Right. And now I know that sometimes to people that feels a little bit awkward, like, I don't want to be that person that it's all me. And that's not what this means, right? You're not honoring yourself first in a sense of like, it's all about me. It's going to be me. We're all people pleasers here. I'm pretty sure of that, right? And Barb says, elevate is my business word for 2026. The focus is raising quality service and brand perception. Love it. Love it. See, there you go. That's intentionality. I love that. So if that intentionality though is honoring yourself first, because then that allows you to not constantly try to give from an empty cup, right? It's the airline situation, right? You got to put on your mask first before you can help anybody else. And so maybe what you're looking at there then as an opportunity or an action that we can take is working on saying no, right? And so a lot of times some of the best goals that we can set for ourselves moving forward is not more or growth or bigger. It's what am I going to say no to today? Right. And so when you say no, that will allow space for the ideal yes to show up. And so maybe it's finding joy is about leaning into something you're not sure about, right? But it keeps coming to your mind. And so these are some ways to be intentional with that. But first, you got to identify it. So choose that one priority, identify it, and look at it and what way is going to hold on to it. And so those words are a great place to start, because now, as Barb goes through her year here, we'll put this up again, right? If it doesn't help raise quality, improve service, or the brand perception, she should probably say no to it, right? Oh, more stuff that's cheap. No, sorry, right? It just makes our decision making so much easier. But we have to still have action, right? So we identify it. That gives us this clear path that we can go on. But the second thing is just to find a meaningful action that you can take. Not the hardest, not the most impressive, the smallest action that moves you forward. And that action needs to do one of three things. It needs to improve your mindset towards your reason, right? You want to latch it onto it a little bit tighter because of the action. Or it needs to help you plan how you will live out your reason. Or it needs to create movement in an area that you've been avoiding. And outside of those three things, the smallest tiny action you can take is all that's needed. Because the small actions actually rebuild your self-trust, and that self-trust is fuel, right? I love a good motivational speech. The Tony Robbins, the Mel Robbins, whatever it is for you. I love a good quote, right? You probably hear me say them a lot of times, and that's all motivation. And motivation is like a kickstart, but motivation will never be the long-term fuel for your fire. Momentum, on the other hand, will be the long-term fuel for your fire. And so you don't need that motivation burst of energy, right? You might need the motivation to get off the couch, but you need the step, right? That first step away from the couch is what you need. And then making sure that turns into a rhythm. Oh, another step. And maybe at one point that step will lead outside onto the walk or to the gym or what, right? Like, you see, I'm just using the step analogy here, but it keeps you moving. And so what are some practical actions that you guys can take? I'm curious, and I'll give you a second for that, but let me see. Vicky says, haha, that word no, very hard, but it gives you freedom when you learn that it's okay to say it. Yeah. And yes, I'm very challenged with the word no. For being two letters, it's really, really difficult to say. But the reality is it's not about a personal thing or anything like that. It is really about just, like you said, giving yourself that freedom to then be able to say yes to the right things. Yes, step away from the couch, Angie says. Okay, so let me give you some examples. So if your priority is improving your mindset towards your reason, you can start today by writing a one sentence that answers this. Today, I choose to lead from X instead of fear. Today, I choose to lead from love instead of fear, right? Today, I choose to lead from an uncommon mindset, ask people to think differently instead of fear. That would be for me. Second thing you could do is remove one input that increases stress or comparison. Turn off a notification, less doom scrolling, saying no to a meeting, saying no to going on a podcast, saying no to having to teach at every trade show in the industry, right? I'm speaking, I got my mirror up right here. Just because of my ego, right? Like, unfortunately, a lot of the shows just don't pay enough to make it worth our time, right? And it's okay, but it's not for me, right? So that's the next thing. Then spend 5 quiet minutes at the start of each day at the end of each day. I said start of each day. I don't know where my brain was going there. Spend 5 quiet minutes at the end of each day just asking what mattered today, right? The question that I actually have, and I don't have one here with me on my daily planner sheet, is what did God show me today? And because that interrupts the question of what did I get done or what didn't I get done? And now we're dealing with a bigger thing, a higher purpose, a reason, as opposed to the things, the little actions, which are important, but only if they're aligned, right? But if we're only focused on the actions, what did I get done today? What did I accomplish? That's good. I want to celebrate, but is it moving me forward? Right. And then the last thing here is write down one belief that keeps popping up and replace it with a truer statement that you want to practice. Right. And just using 5 to 10 minutes of journaling that will make a huge difference. Like, I don't know what I'm doing can be switched into I'm learning each and every day. Right. It could be as simple as that. Right. Like whatever it is for you. Right. And these actions don't change like your calendar or anything that much, but they change how you show up inside of these things. All right. So if your priority is planning how you'll live out your reason, here's some other actions you could do. You could block a single recurring 30-minute appointment on your calendar daily that honors your priority. No agenda needed, just 30 minutes a day to work on living out your reason, right? Again, thinking about it, dreaming about it. How does it feel, right? My reason is cultivating an uncommon mindset in business owners by equipping them with fundamentals to build fulfilling and goal-achieving businesses. That's a mouthful, but that is the like heart and soul of it. I want you to fall deeper in love with your business. So I just give myself some creative time to just sit and think, what could help people, right? I learned a lot in those moments. I realized you guys don't need more homework. You just need the aligned action, right? And that's where the accelerator came out of. All right. Next thing you could do is just write a short, not this year list, that no list, right? So your priorities have space to exist. To be honest with you, before you set your 2026 goals into place, I would write a list of at least 3 things. Let's just go with 3. Whatever's right for you is honestly right. Of no, right? I'm going to say no to this as a priority, as a policy. You could also choose a boundary that you'll practice this month. Maybe you'll shorten a meeting that you have. Maybe you'll say, hey, I'm being requested something and I'm going to pause before answering. And then last but not least here, you could ask yourself once a week, did my schedule reflect what I said matters most, right? Let me look at that. What did I do? And were your priorities there, right? What did you choose first? Did you choose busy work? Did you choose something that, yes, I know you've got to get to, but does it really need to be the most important thing? I don't know, right? And planning is not about perfection. It's about giving your priorities somewhere to land. Now, a couple more here, and then we'll start wrapping up. I know we're a little bit longer today. If your priority is creating movement in an area that you've been avoiding, some of these actions are pretty straightforward, but we gotta choose them. Send the email you've been drafting in your head but never finished. Just push send. Let go of what the response might be. All the response to that email, or even a lack of response to that email, is just data. It's just a way for you to learn, okay, what happened there? Not that you were bad, not the email was bad, not that the request was bad. Just send it. Or schedule the conversation that you've been putting off, even if it's uncomfortable. The 15 to 30 minutes of being uncomfortable in that conversation will be much, much less than the days, and for some of us, years of discomfort that turns into disease when we're holding on to those uncomfortable moments. And all we need to do is just have that conversation. Excuse me. See, I coughed in your ear. All right. Next thing, take one visible step on something you've been circling, right? Register for the thing, say yes, ask for help, do the test, write the outline, ask for feedback. What's a small action that you can take immediately? Let that first step become the catalyst to the next, and see how your momentum is going to build from that. And then lastly here, just stop tweaking, right? It's good enough, right? And in that good enough, the way I've been able to define that, because I am a recovering perfectionist as well as a recovering people pleaser, as well as recovering a lot of things, that good enough doesn't have to be, I don't care. The good enough is I'm proud of the effort I've put into it, even though it might not be perfect yet. I need to get it out there because I don't know what perfect looks like, right? Or what that means. And I know I'm never going to get there anyways, but I want to be proud of it, right? So if you change that mindset and just put it out there, then see what happens. Because when we avoid things, it drains our energy, but movement restores our energy, even when the steps feel small or uncomfortable. Your comfort zone is meant to be a launch pad to your next step, to the next growth area for you. Even if that's a no, it's still growth. Not a campground. If your comfort zone becomes a campground that you set your life up in, then that's as far as you're going to get, right? If you're happy with that, great. You're there. High five. Congratulations. We'll do pom-poms, confetti cannons, the whole nine, if you're very happy with that. But I know most people that I had talked to aren't there yet, right? And so these small actions, they matter because they rebuild that self-trust. And self-trust is your fuel. Motivation is going to fade. We talked about that. But momentum compounds. Momentum doesn't fade. It actually builds on itself. And when you take those small aligned actions with your priorities being front of mind, your brain starts believing in you again. And that's when your progress becomes sustainable over the long term, even through the ebbs and flows. So you don't need that burst of energy. You need that rhythm that will keep you moving. All right. So as we wrap up here today, I just want to leave you with something fun, but I think you'll find it also very surprisingly insightful. As we've just discussed all through this presentation here today, Small Business Saturday, when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling scattered, or like something keeps getting in your way, even when you're having good intentions, if you can name it, that's what's going to help start that process, right? That awareness we talked about at the beginning. And so I created a quiz, and that quiz is meant to name and put in perspective what I call your business nemesis. I wanted to have a little fun with it. So I've got all these monsters, right? These AI generated monsters. And when you can name what's really holding you back, whether that's overwhelm, perfectionism, fear, burnout, you stop fighting everything and you start focusing on the right things. And the things holding us back are they're just these made up monsters, but they're still holding us back, right? I'm not trying to belittle that fact. And so why not have a little fun with that, right? So with that being said, let me put it up on screen here. If you go to oursuccessgroup.com/quiz, it only takes just a couple of minutes. There's like 5 questions, and it gives you a clearer picture of what's asking for your attention. And as you set priorities for the year ahead, it might be useful. I try to give as much insight into those things as possible. And if you want to keep the conversation going, come in, share who your business nemesis is, whatever. Let's have some fun with it again. Come join us inside the Entrepreneur Success Hub, right? Go to osg.link/group and do yourself and the rest of us a favor. Just share, whatever shows up for you. What came up for you from today's episode or the quiz? Because that's where the real growth is going to happen, is when we lean into community, not in isolation, right? Like, you can't just be the lurker in the back and expect to have any growth. So next week, we're going to build on this foundation by talking about how to identify your business's most pressing challenges, not the surface level problems, but the real root issues. And once we start addressing those, you're going to unlock even more momentum. And then you can set that goal and really be making progress, right? Each step is going to be a nice step forward, as opposed to all these scattered steps all over the place. I like doing little funny things with my hands. All right. Excuse me. I got to not laugh in the middle of this. I'm really looking forward to that discussion with you guys next week. It will be recorded next week, so I need you guys to show up and be in the comments. I will try to jump in the comments myself, but I will be at a volleyball tournament in Cincinnati. But please show up for me. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Until then, you guys, stay intentional and, just take one small action. That's it. One small aligned action, and keep building a business that supports who you are becoming. You guys got this. High five. We'll talk to you next week.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group. Together we grow